Hello YouTube land, it is me, Justin King again with another video. And today I am going to do one about anime again. So as I've done in the other ones, you guys know I usually like to talk about anime that is binge watchable because it's something that I do while I'm doing laundry or to try and keep the noise down with the people I live with because they fight a lot, or it's something that keeps me company or calms me down. So when I look for anime to watch, I usually pick things that are really, really long because it also helps me get invested in the characters and things. But sometimes anime comes along where it's a really one episode thing or 10 episodes or less, but it's so important or so good, it's really worth watching, even though it's really just like an appetizer. And these are going to be two of the animes I'm going to go over. They're really, really short for people who aren't really into the whole anime world and you're coming in from it from the gothic perspective and just kind of learning from it because you watch my other videos. They have this thing called OVA or OAV, which is the same three words just placed differently. It's O for original, A for animated, V for video, or original video animation. And that's basically where in the 80s and 90s, before anime became very popular, very lucrative financially, and something that became not only something that here in the West we consume, but it became a worldwide phenomenon, and it was just kind of starting to get popular. They really did smaller episodes. They did movies that were maybe 2 hours, something of that nature, because they didn't know how it was going to be, and with the technology at the time it was expensive to do so, right? It was expensive to make the animation by hand, the voice actors and all that. It was a lot more manual labor than it is now. So you do get a lot of the 90s anime where it's OVAs and movies and things that are 10 episodes and less. And I tend to skip those, but these two that I'm going to talk about are really, really worth it if you're gothic. These are also on the more romantic side. The first one I'm going to talk about is Pet Shop of Horrors. So you might be surprised about that, thinking, yeah, here in America, there's this whole cult thing about it, this whole movie about it, like, y'all already know that life. But this is the Japanese version of it, and it's actually a little bit different. This is only 4 episodes, but it is so, so good. Now, these are shows that it's a little more slower paced. It's something that I kind of need to do, like watch things that are a little more calmer and all that, but I tell you, it's real good stuff. So a little background about it. Pet Shop of Horrors started out as a manga, aka comic first and foremost, and it was created by Matsuri Akino. And the premise is pretty much similar to the American version. There is a person who is of Chinese descent who owns a pet shop in Chinatown, and this place is actually selling regular animals, exotic animals, but he has a opium room in the back where they do incense, and the incense influence these people that consistently come to the store to see these endangered and unique species of beings as things that they wanted, they craved, they lusted, they lost it over, or things that they pined for that they were unable to get in life. And the stories, the 4 stories, are about what happens when they give into temptation and when they get second chances, and all of them actually end in heartbreak. Every single one of them, somebody is dying or it doesn't work out. The owner's usually found up dead, and the animal passes. And it's not necessarily a spoiler because that's not the point of it. The point is the journey of figuring out what killed the things in the first place and how did they get there. And a part of it is giving into the visual and emotional aesthetic because it is drawn in a very feminine way, a very gothic, romantic, pining, deaf. The music is also very lush as well. The art is very feminine. They do have a little bit of humor in it because they do have a whole side of it where there's a cop trying to figure out what's going on, and we're trying to figure out how they turn into these longings that they want. And because I'm getting a little better with technology, I'm going to try and maybe insert a clip, maybe the intro. There's not really an intro, but I want to try and put something in here so you can see a little bit of it. I highly recommend it to all the goths out there that are getting into anime or love anime but they haven't checked it out, that are more on the romantic side, more on the poetic side, more of the side that is more on the introspection side of things instead of the horror in your face kind of violent side of things. This would be an anime really for you to dig into.
Welcome to my pet shop. This is Chinatown, a mysterious place where rare and valuable commodities are in abundance. Tonight, you shall find something you desire. Our motto is to sell love, dreams, and hope. Oh, yes. Before you leave with your new pet, please make sure to read all of the sales terms and sign your name. In the event that any of these terms are breached, we cannot assume any responsibility for the consequences. But don't worry. This is where the pet you buy turns out to be everything you deserve.
And as I mentioned, it started out as a comic and then they put it into the anime. So if you really like it, I would highly suggest that you check out the manga because the manga is more than 4 episodes. And actually, this is one that I saw, I read as a teenager in high school back in the early 2000s. So this is one that I've actually revisiting as an adult, and I tell you, it was something I could kind of understand before turning 18, but now that I'm 30, I really grasped more of the emotional side of loss, the emotional pressures of reality and all of that in it. So it's a really good thing to watch even when you're an adult. Like, you won't get bored just because it's a drawing and it's something that you associate things for adolescents to watch, because it's not just that. So the other one that I want to talk about is another short series. This one is only 4 episodes as well. This one is called Phantom Quest Corporation in English. And it actually has a play on words in the original Japanese language it was created. What it translates according to Wiki is Limited Liability Corporation. I'm going to try and pronounce it, but I'm not Japanese, so I'm going to probably say it a little wrong, and I'm sorry in advance. Yugen Kaisa. Yugen Kaisa is how I'm going to try and pronounce it. Limited Liability Corporation. but apparently if you write Yugen Kaisa in a particular other way, it means the occult as well. So it's kind of a little play on words there, you know, Phantom Corp and all that. So apparently this was made by Madhouse, which was one of the huge anime production companies to bring things over in the West here back in the day. Looking at Wiki, and it's not really giving me like a creator as much as they did with Pet Shop of Horrors. But this one is, again, only 4 episodes. I really appreciate this one for a lot of reasons. It has a lot of the themes that become tropes and played out tropes as anime continues, but because everything is so new, because it's, you know, a 90s anime, they do it in unique ways that you never see it after the troops become a real thing. It's cool because it stars a girl probably in her 20s, and she is the owner of the corporation, and she basically is an occultist who specializes in exorcisms. She helps ghosts out, calms them down, sends them to the other world, deal with vampires and all of that. So it's kind of like a Japanese version of Ghostbusters, but it's a little different because it's still very rich in the Japanese culture. For example, unlike more of the modern ones, the songs are more of the old school Japanese songs where they have like talking about forlornness and heartache and more traditional sounds than something that's more poppy. The animation is a little more mature, so they have jokes, and she falls, and you know, they do little back and forth jabs and stuff, but it's drawn in a way that doesn't lose the maturity of the style of animation. It still looks very adult. It still looks very precise. The way that they fight when they're doing the moves, they kind of duck and dodge in interesting ways that you usually don't see. Like the choreography of the performance is a little different than how they do action performances now. And yes, like the first episode is a vampire, and then we go on to, you know, like monks, and we deal stuff with spirits, but the way that they talk about it is kind of interesting and a little more unique. They kind of frame it in a sense of empowering women, because while they have the cop as an older man who gives her leads, she's the one that fixes it. She's the one that's usually saving women, and women coming into their own powers. They even have an elder woman who gives her advice, and it's often also talking about reality. They have this thing where it's her job, you know, and she has to pay money, and she has to pay rent and bills. And as someone that's 30 and struggling with that, it's refreshing to see that instead of just the school thing over and over again. So this is a little more laid back, a little bit less on the romantic goth side. This is one that you would want to casually watch if you want something that's a little chill, a little entertaining. And yes, there is nudity involved, because back then it was really trying to appeal to the heteronormative man sort of thing. Like, anime was very male gaze back in the day, but it's not, at least for me, something that was extremely repulsive. I usually don't watch the ones that are really like that, and I wouldn't recommend it just because it's not my personal vibe. So, you know, be prepared to see naked chest every now and then, or a little slip of something, but it's not too offensive if that stuff bothers you, in my opinion. So again, I'm going to try and be awesome and do a little clip of it here, maybe. Oh, we'll see if I can do that stuff. If I can, awesome.
の雨バスは来ないし飾る顔か気がつけばあったはずの財布がない裏道歩けば上司の不倫を見つけ明日はさせんかいっそ首からは25年目は逃げる時はぶれ出す足のかちょいとお待ちよ兄さんあんたのせいじゃないのよ悪は妖怪もののけここにゃうじゃうじゃいるのよそれが都会よそれが世界よ君の不幸が好物やそんな時には迷わず我が社に電話ください貧乏神に死神鬼にハンガにドラキュラ拝み倒して払い清めて無縁なん成仏
So those are two animes that I'm recommending that are 90s, and they're definitely on the goth side of things, and I think you should check it out. If you have, let me know if you liked it or not, and I will see you guys next time. I have a playlist that I'm going to add of the other ones that I have gone over in the past, as this is a recurring series of mine that as soon as I go through 90s anime that are definitely on the goth side of things, I like it, I think it's good, I pass it on to you guys, and I leave the ones that aren't as good as, on the wayside. Don't waste your time with them. So, until the next video, I will see you guys later. Bye, YouTube land.